Welcome to the Nonprofit Podcast. I'm your host, David Higgins. I'm so glad you're joining us together today. I have been really excited about this conversation, what we're going to have. It's one of those conversations that is unique. And we're talking about somebody that is in the trenches. And her education gave her the chance not to be in the trenches, and she could really build a beautiful, comfortable life around her. But instead, she took that wealth of knowledge and experience and turn it into changing and impacting people's lives. And I know you're going to be encouraged by hearing her story today. Well, the story is brought to you by the book, Demystifying Fundraising Funnels, a digital marketing blueprint to fund your nonprofit. And in this day and age, when nonprofits are needing to shift more and more to online because our traditional tactile fundraising is not where the market is exchanging funds to the same degree, we have to understand that. Did you know 65% of all Americans spend a majority of their income online? Isn't that shocking? This might be a crazy one for you. 27% of working full-time women buy 100% of their groceries online. Did you know that one? And so where's the revenue being transferred? It is being transferred in an income base that is a digital one. And nonprofits are needing to understand that that's the communication they need to be able to speak in. And that is the way they need to be able to build their relationships. And so I want to encourage you, pick up the book, Demystifying Fundraising Funnels, wherever books are sold, as well as an Audible. You can listen to it in the car or an ebook and be able to get a chance to connect with that. On more exciting news, the book's just being released in India. Oh my goodness. And here in a couple of months in Australia and New Zealand. So somebody must be liking reading it. So I hope you do as well. Give us an email, a shout. If there's any questions that you have about the book, you say, David, what about this idea? And I always love hearing more ideas from you. Well, what happens when you have a 20-year veteran of marketing and sales, add to it a skilled negotiator with a business administration degree from Xavier University with a marketing concentration, and drop her into the heart of a fight for those whom society has tried to silence? You would discover the president and CEO at the Urban League of Metropolitan Seattle, Michelle Merriweather. Michelle, it is so good to have you as our guest today.
Thank you so much. It's good to be here, David. Thank you.
I've been so excited to get the chance to speak to you.
I'm excited. First of all, I'm excited about this book and the work that you are doing, but it is an honor to be here today. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Michelle, now you went to Xavier University, which has a great reputation. What was it like to attend that prestigious of a university?
Goodness. So first, let me be clear. There's two Xaviers, at least two. The one that I attended is the Historically Black College in the heart of New Orleans, Louisiana, which I consider it to be the greatest institution of higher learning on the planet. And in one of the most beautiful cities, New Orleans, Louisiana. Um, and it was I consider it one of the honors of my life. It was certainly where I got to develop as an adult. I got to follow in my mother's footsteps and attend Xavier, who was also she was also a business major and one of my idols. So if it worked for my mother, it was going to work for me. And it was just an awesome experience to leave home, which was Southern California, where I had a tremendous experience as well. But know that in high school, I was one of 10 Black faces in the entire school of 700 students. And going to Xavier, where I was one of 4,000, almost 4,000, because there was certainly some diversity on the campus, but 4,000 Black faces. So it was just, in high school, I was often the phenomenon. I was smart, uh, you know, a decent athlete, and all of that. But when I went to Xavier, there was a lot of brilliant, beautiful Black faces on campus from all over the country. So it was an honor. And then just being in New Orleans with the food, the culture, the environment, it was just so much fun and a tremendous experience.
Oh, wow. I have always had a fascination with New Orleans. I'm a musician. I'm in love with blues and jazz.
Yes.
My great rebellion in high school was starting to play blues and jazz and a little bit of old time rock and roll, and it just always wanted to go there. So for my 50th birthday, I know that makes me an old man now, but for my 50th birthday, my wife sent me, and we ended up. I grabbed my best friend Eric Nilsson, and we went to New Orleans for 4 days. And we happened New Orleans in 2020 had no Saints games. And when we arrived there, it opened up for, it was like the third to last game in the season, the Dome, to watch a Saints game. And I just so happened to have this with me. I
Look at
still have the cup I used when I was at that game. And that was fantastic. That was so much fun.
that. I love, yeah, those games are fun. New Orleans is just a fun place. And
Mm.
um, uh, it's so much of who I am is because of New Orleans and Xavier, and all of the experiences that I've had. But
Mm.
New Orleans, Xavier certainly taught us, instilled in us a passion for service, taking our education and doing good with it and being a source of good in this world. Um, so I have the honor of representing not only my parents who instilled that in me
Mm.
also, but Xavier University as well.
I know how important that is to be able to be in that university experience. My daughter Sandra, she's Black, and she went to a university that had the degree she wanted, but
Yeah.
ended up being only one of about 20 students the entire campus that was Black, and it became
Mhm.
actually a very difficult distraction, not because of the color of skin, but the reaction to her all the time when she was in different situations, as well as some things that were unnecessary that was said. And we ended up shifting her from there. She's in Central Washington now, where she's getting a wonderful degree. We're very proud of Sandra.
Yeah,
But being able to know those two different experiences in your life,
it's so
it
true.
really is remarkable.
It is. It is. And I loved my high school and elementary experience. I take nothing from that, and regret nothing about that. My parents made sure that I had the best of all worlds, right? And it was just a tremendous experience. But taking that and the experience that I had at Xavier, certainly both of them, all of that, uh, create created who I am today, for sure.
Well, who you are had a very strong career in marketing. And you were actually a pretty high flying media buyer in Los Angeles, which has a huge market in that area. What
Yeah.
shifted your focus to the nonprofit sector?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I often get that. I think when I relocated back to Los Angeles and started, my career in LA, I wanted to still have kind of that opportunity to give back, and I stumbled upon the Urban League and the Urban League Young Professionals, and started volunteering my time, and then over the course of a few years, I recognized that that was the time that gave me joy, right? Volunteering for the Urban League, helping them with their fundraisers, and mentoring our young kids at Crenshaw High School or throughout the communities. That was when I had joy. I went to work and did a great job, and certainly enjoyed the work that I was doing. But my volunteer service work just gave me immense joy, and so that was one. And then I was a volunteer for the Urban League for probably about 10 or so years when folks started to say, Michelle, you need to make this your profession. Like, you need to come and work for us. And, when you start to hear something enough, you start to believe it. And here I am. I stepped out on faith and decided that I truly can, I like to say, truly can merge my passion for the Urban League with my profession. And a mentor of mine called it occupation. So I get to live my occupation now in this work, which I consider myself blessed and highly fortunate to do this work.
I love that term, occupation. Do you think it would pass a spell check in my Google Drive?
Definitely not, but
No.
we're gonna work on that. Maybe it'll be Webster's word for next year.
That sounds very good. So I have a great respect for the Urban League. I've known about you for several decades. My wife graduated from SPU, and right down the street from where you guys are at. And for the last over 30 years, just between news feeds and activities that keeps
Yeah,
crossing my life, being very much involved with the nonprofit world,
yeah,
and yet to be given the responsibility for an institution that really, and especially in the last few years, have had quite a voice, is needed to have a real voice with the people that it's trying to support and come under. Taking the reins of an organization is a pretty big deal. What about it? You talked about, a step of faith, but you're a well thought out woman. You think things through, and you took what you knew in the commercial world and in marketing and in a successful career, and you decided to take on the hands of this institution.
yeah,
What was it that took that shift that you went, I could do this?
yeah. I think it was a few things. I think, being a volunteer in the Urban League, both in LA and throughout the country, there were um, people who I considered institutions in themselves that were in this work that poured into me. Some of them are no longer on this earth, and they're part of our ancestors. I think of John Mack, who was in Los Angeles, and Jim Bluford, who was in St. Louis, and certainly others that were CEOs of urban leagues and throughout, just community um, pillars. Uh, and I had tremendous parents who instilled in me the necessity to be a part of community, give back, service. Your life is not your own. You got to do something for other people. Um, and so when it came time for me to show up and do this, I had voices all over, my peers, my mentors, my friends, my family, saying that yes, you can. And then I also say when I stepped into Seattle as the vice president, Pamela Banks, who was my predecessor, was a tremendous resource for me. She knew that she was only going to be a part of the Urban League for a short while, and she made sure that I was connected, had relationships with people in the community. And then when I got here, I made it a point to be truly a part of community, right? I joined my sorority here. I started going to church here. I went to high school games, Cleveland Garfield basketball games, going to, just being a true part of community, because that's the only way you can truly serve it, right? Is if you are truly invested in the success of your friends and neighbors here. Um, so I think with all of that, and certainly with the wonderful experiences that I had career wise, I was prepared. And then, when I got the job, it was like, okay, now what are we gonna do, right? It was continuing to build those relationships with community, with elected officials, with our corporate partners and entities, and kind of step back. This organization is 90 years old, 91 years old. So kind of stepping back and understanding the landscape, trying to figure out how we can be most impactful as an organization. There are 90 urban leagues across the country, all showing up for their community in the way that that they saw fit. And so I took the time with the board and folks on the staff and community to figure out where we can truly benefit those that we're supporting. And thankfully, we had a long history and experience. So when 2020 happened, we were ready to hit the ground running. While folks were going home, we were ready to run into the fire and support community. And when our 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 community took to the streets and elevated their voice, we were right there, championing the work in the way that we know how, in the way that we have historically. And um, I just consider it an honor, especially the last couple of years, right? Never
Mm.
in a million years would I thought that I would be leading an organization through a pandemic, much less racial reckoning. But we're it's an honor.
Wow, wow. Now you are a goal setter.
Yes.
You are somebody who actually teaches people how to organize office, put together thoughts, and be able to project that into the future. You must have coming out into this year a kind of like an 18-month build out of things that
Yeah.
you're wanting to get. Can you kind of let us in a little bit on that? Some of your goals that you
Sure.
have for the Urban League?
Yeah, definitely. I will say I am absolutely a goal setter. So these are more like our 10-year goals. So I call it our road to 100 for the organization. But for the next 18 months, I will say one, we're still in a pandemic. We're still in a pandemic. As much as we want to be out of it, in our heads and hearts, and we're tired, we still are. So we have folks that we still have to get vaccinated, educated, comfortable with vaccines. So we're still doing that work. And we'll likely be doing that work at least for the next 18 months. Um, so that's one. And then focusing in that health realm, making sure that while we're focusing on uh, our vac- vaccine health, we're still focusing on our mental health, our physical health, and well being, because as a community that has always suffered, but especially now, the stress of the last couple of years. Between the racial reckoning, our kids being at home and away from their friends and other mentors and adults outside of their home, so making sure that there's some investment in our young people for sure. And then we're going to have over the next couple of years some strong emphasis and focus on creating homeowners uh, within the Black community, because only 30 so percent of homeowners in this region are Black, and we have to change that. And there's going to be some concerted effort over the next couple of years to ensure that we are creating, preparing, and working with our banking institutions, our government partners to make that a focused effort to increase our home ownership, because that is certainly not the only pathway to wealth, but our historic way to wealth and wealth generation for families. So we're going to make some focused effort in that. And outside of that, we're building and supporting our small businesses and creating entrepreneurs and supporting our kids on their journey uh, from from education to greatness, whatever path they may be. So we have a lot going on. Again, 10-year goals, but a lot of focus over the next 18 months on those key areas.
When it comes to negotiation, there's so many ways we can use the same skill set. For example, you are skilled at negotiating contracts. You're skilled at negotiating points of view. And especially when there's heat in the conversation, you understand how to mediate that. It's just been part of your training and how you've operated through your life. As a key leader, mediating forward momentum in an organization in a region, well, not only America as a political climate right now, but specifically like King County and Seattle, there's some acidity in the political climate that really sometimes can be quite a distraction. When politics is creating such a distraction, how do you move an organization forward and keep it focused?
Yeah, I always tell my team, keep the main thing the main thing. That's the first step, is keeping the main thing the main thing. Our focus is to ensure that Black people and underserved communities have a pathway to health and wealth and prosperity. And in order to do that, we have to be laser focused on that goal and stay outside of the fray. And how do we do that? It certainly isn't easy, but we don't necessarily focus on politics, but we focus on policy, right? So we ensure that we are advocating and raising our voices and uplifting our voices that impact policy that support our communities. Now, we try to stay out of the fray of politics, right? The party back and forth, the extreme left or extreme right. We try our best to stay out of that, because that I often say, our focus is our babies. If our young people have a pathway from womb to graduate from college or go on to do whatever it is that to they want to do, if they have a pathway to do that, that is clear from distraction, keeps them, out of that school to prison pipeline, make sure they have a roof over their head, food in their bellies, access to a quality education, et cetera, et cetera. We're doing the right thing. And I think the distractions, all of the political party pressures and bickering back and forth, the focus on my winning means you losing, or vice versa, means the losers in that are our kids and those most marginalized. So when we truly take away the noise and keep the main thing, our kids first and foremost, and those that are living within the margins or outside of the margins, um, we're so much better and so much stronger, and we can focus on that policy, right? I'm not worried about who, I'm worried about what we offer some awesome programs and supports for our young people and for our families. But they're programs. We have to focus on the policies that truly shift the change, and get us to where we need to be. So we just focus on that, and try to stay out of the politics, the back and forth and the bickering.
In a multicultural battle that we're in these days, and my children all went to a school in San Diego. We were living there during junior high and high school, as I was running the San Diego Performing Arts Center and helping out with my father's nonprofits. And um, they went to a school that spoke 58 languages, had practicing all 5 religions. This 2,500 students. The principal, Derek Morris, was amazing, man. Man, I have a huge respect for, and ended up getting picked up by the United Nations and sent to university for a doctorate degree so he can deal with this subject of multiculturalism.
I love that.
And one of the things that he said to me is we've got to continually bring hope
Mm.
to the Black boys and girls, because that's specifically who he was dealing with, that things can get better. They're
Mm-hmm.
not eroding and getting worse. What is part of that message of hope that we can give the next generation?
Mm-hmm.
People like my son and daughter, others that are sitting in that place of, dad, things rattling, coming apart, and like, no, we're in a season. How do you address that? Because it's not something
Mm-hmm.
you have to constantly be feeding hope into that next generation in your position.
Yeah. I tell them they are the hope. They are the hope. They're the ones that we've been waiting for to change this generation. Whenever, social media is how we communicate tremendously. And all my friends and family, um, on my social media pages, when they post their daughters or sons or granddaughters, nieces and nephews being born, I say, welcome to this world, young one. We're waiting for you. We're waiting for your gifts. We're waiting for the things that, only you have been put on this earth to solve. Um, and so they're it. I often say, um, uh, we messed this up. We messed this up, and you're here to fix it. And say there's some truth and just, right. The next generation is so brilliant, so powerful. And are able to remove so much of the noise in the fray and focus immensely on change. They're the ones that are so focused on the environment and climate change and the things that are going to make our earth better. They're the ones that recognize the injustices of our systems and raise their voices for a more just society in 2020. And our racial reckoning. It was young people, and if we think back generations, it was always young people leading those movements and voices for hope and change. Think of the civil rights era. Um, those were young people. Those are folks in their 20s and 30s that were like, we're not going to take the status quo as it is. We're going to create that change. So they did the work. They certainly listened and learned from those that came before them. But those that came before them, they get tired, they get weary, and they're ready to pass the baton. And I think our role is to make sure that they're ready. Our role is to make sure that they see the hope in themselves so that they're ready to carry that baton forward and do so much more than we ever have been able to do. So, some of the ways that I do that certainly is through the work that we do. We have tremendous mentorship programs, but aside from that one, when I was in New Orleans, in New Orleans and in Los Angeles as a volunteer for the Urban League, now an employee of the Urban League, I still have to find ways to give back. So I go to the campus of University of Washington and am an advisor for our collegiate sorority members. I make sure that I have a mentee from SPU uh, that is now in New York doing tremendous things, and I just find ways to give back and instill some strength and energy into our young people. And I will say, on our Urban League team, we have some tremendous young leaders. I tell them that they are the leaders of this organization and instill in them. So we have some brilliant 20 somethings and 30 somethings that are leading our policy work, our health outreach work, our marketing and communications, our fundraising, and the list goes on. So I make sure that they know that they're leaders and that they're ready to carry this baton, and you know, and keeping that hope and faith alive.
That's beautiful. Can I ask you some technology questions?
Yes, of course.
All right. I know you kind of have a toe in technology, and I kind of take advantage of that because I'm doing all I can to push nonprofits to even a greater
Yeah,
educated space of how to merge into
yeah,
technology, especially in the area of fundraising. You manage the creation of web and social media platforms to facilitate interaction with customers, friends, fans, and protective supporters now of nonprofits. That had to be greatly valuable coming into the Urban League as you stepped into that leadership
yeah,
position. Nonprofits are needing to surge into the space, and there's a many of them that are wave. Now, the second largest conference in America is technology and digital marketing for nonprofits, and
mhm.
it's with tens of thousands of people are engaged in part of that. And I have this secret dream. I want to speak there next year. That's a goal.
Put it out there.
Um,
Put it out there.
there we go. Absolutely. You know, as we run to catch up to the marketplace, what are some cautions that you have for nonprofits? Because, I know how I am. I always, there's a gleaming bubble there and a gleaming, and you want to grab it at all. And suddenly you're overwhelmed and you don't get anything done.
Yeah,
As people are entering this space, what are some cautions that you have and you've seen in your experience?
yeah. I think first, yes, we can always chase the next shiny thing. And you know, we have to it goes back to the same saying, keep the main thing the main thing. You have got to make sure that you're using those platforms for your advantage to bring people in to tell and share your stories, and to motivate people to support your organization. I think, for me, we have to be careful. One, um, to do that in a way that is lifting people up and not because we are a direct service agency, and not exploiting the folks that we are serving, but we're lifting people up and encouraging community, and not telling telling folks stories of when they're at their worst for our benefit. That drives me kind of crazy. But using those platforms as a source for good, for encouraging people, and bringing people into that community and your community, your organization's community, and making them part of your family and encouraging them to support you that way. Um, and not chasing the next shiny thing, making sure that you are doing your due diligence to make sure that you're using platforms and sources that are a benefit and a support for you and not harmful to you. And I will also say, going back to our young people, um, this is the space that they live in and thrive in, and make sure that we are including them. That next generation in that technology platform, and using their skills and the things that they're able to do naturally as a way to grow and benefit the work. So include them in the conversations for sure when it comes to social media platforms. That's the generation that built this, and use it every day in their social environments and everyday lives. So use that to the advantage of the organization and the goals that we're trying to meet. I, it has worked for me. I'm telling you by through experience that it has been a remarkable outcome, and it also teaches those young people some leadership and stick to it, and helping them develop their skills as well. It's pretty awesome.
That's wonderful. I found in the book Demystifying Fundraising Funnels, we talk about there's over 103 different social media sites out there, and you have to find
Yep.
what fits you, and don't try to do everything. Like the seven main ones, don't try to do everything. What we're doing here at Nonprofit Online and the Nonprofit Podcast, we know three that really work well for us, and we're actually posting on five or six different pod social, but LinkedIn,
Yeah.
a big connection for us there. Facebook, YouTube, those are our three kind of that we really hone in on. And if we don't have time to post on everything, we don't. But we make sure we're focusing on the ones that we can post on.
Exactly.
And so I couldn't imagine. I know different groups that are got 13, 14 different social sites that they're trying to engage in, and to me, that's exhausting. Oh,
That's
this
it.
is absolutely exhausting.
And yeah, and that I imagine that takes away from the work too, you know.
Mhm.
So use these platforms that can truly move mountains for the organization to your advantage. Don't let them harm you, because they can do that too. We've seen that,
Mm.
that they can do that too.
You did mention how important it is to keep a positive storytelling versus about all the problems. In our research for demystifying fundraising funnels, we found that majority of donors gravitate to the nonprofits that celebrate their successes more than the ones that celebrate the need. And I came in and consulted with a wonderful nonprofit. It was a food pantry, and their website was all focused on people that were hungry. People are hungry. People give. People are hungry. And we switched it to these are people getting fed, and these are the stories of victory because they're able to fill in the gaps and that positive movement. And suddenly they started finding more donors coming in and long-term donors coming in. And I find that if we can change our mentality from a negative based communication to a hopeful based, it attracts people.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I um I try to stay away from the scarcity model in everything, right? Like there is there is more than enough people out there to serve. There are an abundance of folks that are willing to give. You just have to make sure that you're telling the stories that are bringing them in, not and fear and scarcity is for me anyway is not the way to tell that story. um Definitely tell it from a source of hope and abundance. I mean, just saying the word hope and abundance makes you smile, right? And
Makes
uplifts
me
you more.
hopeful. Maybe one day.
Exactly. One day, and maybe my $5-10 are committed to that hope, sewing into that hope and that uplift. So yeah, definitely.
For nonprofits that are looking to flex into the social and digital media space, what's a good framework that they could look at? Okay, we're going to move this direction. We're needing kind of like a one, two, three, four listing to make sure that we go into it wisely. What kind of framework would you suggest?
I'm imagining reading your book, so I think that's number one.
I
Uh,
like you. Oh, absolutely.
that's number one, and I try to do this work by including community or including other voices in this. So, um, I Michelle is not the one that's going to solve everybody's problems. I and the Urban League try to be the convener to have those conversations. So ask, talk to community, talk to folks around you, talk to folks that are in this space. And see what they're looking for. Folks that are investing in the organization right now, what they're looking for, and hopefully we can use that as a building block. Talk to the people that you're serving, and how best to tell their stories or how best to reach them, because I think the social media platforms can also be a source for reaching those people as well, that we need to connect with. And then again, I say bring in those young voices and empower them, because we need to make sure the next generation not only has a voice but has a space in this work too. And I think same goes for our senior generation. Make sure that their voices are heard and have input on this too, because they are maybe not as tech savvy, and as we go into these social platforms, we have to make sure that there's space for them and they see themselves in this work and a part of the community as well. So I think it's a lot of community listening, convening, gathering, um, and then starting slow to
Mhm.
don't try to boil the ocean. If it's just Facebook where we start, or YouTube where we're telling our stories, start with what you have the capacity to do. Don't try to do it all overnight.
Absolutely. Uh, I need to get you a t-shirt that says, "My name's Michelle, and I'm here to solve all your problems." And
There we go. There we go.
my wife said the exact same thing just a week ago. She owns a small business. It's a bookkeeping company, but they're managing well over 20 nonprofits books now.
Wow.
They're nonprofit specialists, and she's constantly on the phone, and she'll hang up. I'm not here to solve everyone's problems. I'm like, now there's two Michelles that have to deal with the same problem.
Not here to solve everyone's problem. Nah, but I
Well,
do.
if somebody wants to connect to you to solve all their problems or connect with the Urban League, what is the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, the best way to do that is, we're certainly on many social channels: Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. And then we have a wonderful website, urbanleague.org, where they can reach out to us there as well. And for those of that are not a part of social media, our phone still works. 206-461-3792. You can give us a call or stop by. We've been in the same building for probably 60 years, 105 14th Avenue on the corner of 14th and Yesler in the Central District. We're there Monday through Friday. You can stop by and say hello as well.
Well, it's been a great conversation. But before we go, we always give a shout out to other nonprofits that
Yeah.
we think are doing great, brag on them a little bit because there's so many out there. In fact, the list could be long. So we limit ourselves to one each at the end of every show.
Darn.
And so, do you know one you can pull off the top of your head? And you
I
can't pick the
do.
Urban League. I know that's your
Okay.
favorite.
Definitely
Okay.
is. Definitely is.
All right. So I'll go ahead and go first and I'll toss it over to you. So, if you really want to know what optimism feels like and looks like, there is a nonprofit in the state of Washington that is doing a great job of creating hope. And when you even go to their website, they have a question that's right there on their homepage. It says, um, who is looking for help with? And you fill out the answer. Like, what am I looking for help with? And then it says, and here's some people that can help you. And they bring solutions and they trying to connect the people that are need with the people that have solutions. And
Mhm.
yet it's not just that, it's a neighborhood by neighborhood reach out to try to help the neighborhoods care for each other. The name of the organization is called Safe Streets. They're in Tacoma, Washington. And they are not big by any means. They really are just taking care of their neighborhoods and their part of town that they're in there in Tacoma, and they're doing a great job. I When I
Mhm.
look at what they're doing, I just got to smile because it's just like neighbors loving neighbors, people taking care of each other, and the website, simple as it is, really displays that care and the ability to care for one another. And so,
Oh,
if you want to just check out somebody who's doing a great job encouraging their neighborhood, check them out. Safe Streets in Tacoma. Their website is safest, or SAFEST safestreets.org. So there we
oh,
go. That's my
love
turn.
that.
Your turn, Michelle.
My turn, my turn. There's so many organizations that are doing amazing work. And I have had the honor of launching the Black Future Co-op Fund that has been working all year to identify tremendous organizations across Washington State. So it's really hard for me to pick just one because I want to highlight them all. But the one I will pick right now is probably Choose 180 in Seattle, that focuses on supporting our young people because they are our future, and these young people, many of them have had some sort of brush with our legal system. And Choose 180 not only supports them in getting jobs, connected in the educational opportunities, etc., and community passageways. Um, Choose 180 does the same thing. So if I can pick two, I'll do the same. I'll do that. But community passageways, I choose them because they show up when most of us are running from the scene. When shots are fired and in the city, and somebody a young person is hurt or harmed by gun violence, they show up and support those families, those young people who lost their friend, invite them into a safe space to have conversation, uplift and empower them. They do tremendous, tremendous hard work, yes, but heart work in supporting our young people and showing them that there is a better way. And for that, I think Choose 180, Community Passageways, sorry, uh, is a tremendous organization, and their website is communitypassageways.org. Um, please reach out to them.
I just looked up their website while you're talking. I also looked up
Yes,
choose180.org.
they're awesome too.
Yep, choose180.org and communitypassageways.org.
Yes.
And a really good website too. It pulls you right into what they're doing there. So
hmm hmm
excellent.
Dominique Davis and Sean Good both lead those respective organizations. Tremendous human beings. Yeah,
Now, technically you cheated, Michelle, because
I cheated.
I limited myself to one. Try to
I
set a good
know.
example.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It has been wonderful having you as our guest.
It has been a true honor for this day. I appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
And for all of you that are working so hard to stand with your communities, to build your nonprofits, to make a change in your neighborhoods, thank you for what you're doing. We just get to brag about you. We know how much the work is in your hands. And so I want to tell you how much we appreciate you and thank you. Keep going. And until we talk again in just a few days, take care.